The owner of Stroud-based energy firm Ecotricity has revealed his plans for the town's subrooms. He spoke out. He was named as the preferred bidder to the site, of course, by the Stroud District Council. That's kind of official now. The other bid is from the Town Council, which says the venue should remain in public ownership. In a post on Facebook, Dale says he's offering half of the asking price, $300,000, and then in return will keep it as a public venue. But he says on weekdays the upstairs will be used as an area for his staff to spend their lunch breaks. He'll be with us on the programme in just a moment. First of all, our reporter Sophia Franklin has the very latest.
This building has been the centre of a huge row for the past year now. It's a story we've visited again and again and again. It's after Stroud District Council said it could no longer afford to keep it open at £400,000 a year to run. Councillors have since been considering two options: sell the subrooms to the Stroud-based energy company Ecotricity, or hand it over to a community group supported by the Town Council. Now, at a meeting of the Town Council earlier this month, it was leaked to the public that the owner of Ecotricity, Dale Vince, was the preferred bidder. That's now been confirmed by the council. He says he's offering £300,000. That's half the asking price, and will in exchange keep the building as a public venue. So what do people think about Dale Vince and Ecotricity's plans?
I would prefer it didn't go to them, if I'm honest. I preferred it stayed with the council. And I think Dale Vince has got too much of Stroud.
I think it's brilliant. It's going to keep it open and running. All power to him.
It needs to stay open, it needs to be used, and I know they've been struggling to get it to pay for itself at the moment, so whoever can do that, and Dale Vince is saying he can.
I still think it should remain in the public domain. I think it's very important. It's part of Stroud and belongs to the people.
So, we've talked about plans for the building itself, but what about the forecourt? Well, today it's used for flower stalls. There's one just set up in front of me. It's also used for public displays and sometimes protests, but it was in the past used as an air raid shelter in World War II. But Dale Vince has been vague about how he proposes to use the forecourt if he does end up buying it. So what do people here want to see done with the space?
I'd hope he'd, keep it.
It would keep it
as a performance
as an
area.
open space that can be used. Because if you put something here, you lose the whole facade of the building, which is quite magnificent.
Nothing much really. It used to be trees years ago, but I suppose that would be out of the question now. It's for purpose, isn't it?
It's a bit bland, isn't it? It's just stone. I'd prefer to see
What can you do with it?
Well, you could put a few plants in it. All I can say is that in the past, when Mother was a girl, there were plants here, there were railings. It was much more pleasant area, far more so, yeah.
So that's where we are. That's the issue. Well, with me now, the man who's been named as the preferred bidder to take over the subrooms, the owner of Ecotricity, Dale Vince. Morning to you. Thanks for joining us on the show this morning.
Yeah, morning, Mark. My pleasure.
Right. The tabloids, we can argue the final figure, but the tabs say you're worth £100 million, whatever the figure. You've got a bob or two. You're not going short. It's being sold for $600,000. So why are you only offering half?
I think you're referring to something the Sunday Times said about, 10 years ago when they said Ecotricity was worth $100 million, not me.
You're not short. You don't have to turn the heating down in the winter, do you?
Say again?
You're not short of a bob or two.
Oh, I'm not saying I am. I'm just correcting what you're saying. The council's report that they published on Monday shows that they thought £600,000 was a guide price, but they wouldn't get it because of the restrictions on the use of the building that already exist, and they want to put other restrictions on it. So the council think it's a good offer, and I do too, to be fair. I think if the building was unencumbered by any expectation of public use and that kind of stuff, it probably would be worth about £500,000, £600,000, but it isn't.
Would the forecourt at the front be kept in public use?
Yes, and I think your reporter was quite wrong to say I've been vague about that. I've been very clear.
Well, in what way?
I've said it would be kept in public use.
But in what form would that public use be?
As it is, and that's what I've said. I've been very clear about that. No plans to change the forecourt.
So would someone who wanted to have a demonstration there be able to use it for the day if they wanted to demonstrate about Forest Green moving to Junction 13 and a possible business park?
Yeah, that would be fun, wouldn't it? We could do that. Listen, we don't plan to restrict anybody's access to the forecourt.
Would you consider not owning the forecourt area if the access to the building was legally enshrined?
Yeah, that's a possibility. We're not wedded to any of this. Look, Mark, the thing to remember is the council have been forced to put this on the market by the cuts of central government. We've responded to their request for either a bid to buy the building or a bid to run the building as a public venue, and our offer is to do both. That's what's happened. We're not behind this. We're trying to solve the problem for Stroud, save the subrooms.
There is a concern and an issue because once it goes, if it goes to you, and I know you say you won't, but there is, it's in private ownership. What happens if you do sell Ecotricity?
Well, again, the council made very clear in the report they published on Monday, their intention is to sit down and set out a range of covenants to control what happens to the building in the future so that it remains in public use. Our expectation was exactly that. So having seen that, we see no problem protecting the subrooms for the future, for public use, in conjunction with the council.
So can you tell me more about that? Because the bottom line is, other large companies in the past have said they wouldn't, say The Body Shop when it was Damon Eater, and then suddenly that went. So you buy it and people, you split people. Some people love you, some people don't. And those who trust you and love what you're doing in Stroud, they might well be concerned that once you're no longer with us or you sell the business, there is this uncertainty. So can you give me some more details about that covenant?
Yeah, the way this works, it's covenants on the building. It's not on me. It's not on Ecotricity. It's about how the building gets used, what happens in the event that it gets sold, for example, and that kind of stuff. These are legal covenants attached to the building that protect its purpose. So, for example, there could be a covenant that says if it was ever going to be sold, the council got the first right of refusal to buy it back, for example. There'd be another one that says that it has to remain as a public venue, the forecourt has to remain public space, that kind of stuff. Is very straightforward, actually.
Okay. What about the upstairs, the office space and the canteen, that whole space? Tell me about your vision for that.
Yeah, well, it's quite simple. During the week, upstairs is not used, and so we figure we could use that as a space. We've got about 600, maybe 650 people in the town of Stroud, and we don't have a room big enough for more than probably about 30 or 40 people, and there aren't any cafes, that big in Stroud anyway. And so really the idea is just to have like a breakout room, a place where our people can go and hang out lunch times and break times and that kind of stuff. And it won't clash with its use as a venue because, as I say, it's unused during the week, during the day.
There are, though, aren't there? There's loads of cafes. Star and East, Woodruff's, Black Book Cafe, Upper Lane Lock Cafe. There's loads of cafes in Stroud. They might think, hang on, I've got 600 people here. They are our lunchtime trade. If you shove them all at the top of the subs, that's not really contributing to all of those independent businesses in the town.
Well, look, our people don't go to a cafe every day for lunch and break time. They don't do that. A lot of our people bring their lunch into work and sit at their desks and eat it, and that's not very nice for them. I don't think this will take trade from Stroud. I think it will bring trade into Stroud even more because our people will be coming from our offices into the town centre more than they do today.
Okay, final point. As you've heard in the audio, and this is a thing you and me have discussed in the past when we've walked around Stroud, you hear from people in Stroud and some just say, hang on, you are monopolising it. Stroud is monopolised. This is another chunk of Stroud owning too much of the town, and people feel uncomfortable with that.
What do you want me to say? I mean, I hear some people say that. I think it's a minority view. I think the majority view is that Ecotricity are a force for good in Stroud. With almost 700 people working in the town. We breathe some life into the town, and we care about what happens here. And, we care about what happens to the subrooms. We're simply stepping up and saying the council can't any longer afford to run it, but we can, and we're offering to.
Would you put a great big green banner on the subs if you bought it?
No, I don't think so. Hasn't crossed my mind, Mark.
Okay, oh dear, well, maybe I've implanted that now. Dale Vince, thank you for joining us this morning. Thoughts on the interview you just heard there with Dale Vince? And, I've spent a lot of time in Stroud, and some people really do admire what's going on and the jobs that are provided and the energy and the ethos. And then you'll find the next person completely the reverse. This is a man, I can tell, I've wandered around the town with him, and he knows he completely polarises opinion. Maybe he quite embraces that. But that's the deal for the subs, and it's a very difficult decision, isn't it? I guess it's whether you're absolutely convinced the other offer to keep it in public ownership is really viable and is going to make a big difference. I guess that's what the consultation's about.